The mystery behind the dark web. How dark and deep is it? Why is it so important, and how does it affect our everyday lives? Then, the continuing rise of esports. Is it the future of the sports industry? More details coming up. And finally, is there good in the dark web, or is it just a secret underworld rife with criminal excess? Stay tuned for more. Welcome to Korean Broadcasting Network Digital Edition. I'm your host, Andrina Shah. The dark web, the mystery behind a massive secret network. The dark web lies beneath the deep web and includes a vast amount of content that cannot be found using conventional web browsing software. But the question is, how dark does this network get, and how does it impact society? We bring you more of this story with KBN reporters David Frazier, Mia Birch, and Jeffrey Arceo. Seoul, the capital of South Korea, known to many as the utopia of technology filled with modern skyscrapers, high-tech subways, and vibrant pop culture. However, with all this good comes bad. The dark web, known for its online marketplace for illegal goods, is part of the World Wide Web that is only accessible by the means of special software, allowing users and website operators to remain anonymous or untraceable.
The mystery of the dark web has been something that authorities have been struggling to deal with. Hundreds of people have been arrested for selling child pornography videos in exchange for digital cash in South Korea. Korean officials have identified the network as one of the largest child exploits they have ever seen. Officials go on to say 23 underage girls have been saved from being abused by users of the site. Many of the children in the videos have not been identified. The dark web child abuse bust has led to more than 300 arrests worldwide. Authorities say a South Korean named Jungwoo Son is included in the bust. Son is now serving up to 18 months in prison and was indicted with several federal charges in Washington. According to the U.S. Justice Department, several people charged in the case have been convicted and are serving up to 15 years in prison.
One of Britain's largest political parties recently fell victim to a sophisticated, large-scale cyber attack. Authorities say the hackers bombarded the UK Labour Party's elections website, almost delaying Britain's national election. It's called a DDoS attack, also known as a distributed denial of service attack. This is a technique used by hackers to take down websites by overwhelming them with excessive online traffic. Experts say DDoS attacks are very difficult to pinpoint to a specific online user, but many of these attacks can be traced to the dark web.
7 people are behind bars after dark web operations were found being used in Germany. Investigators say these dark web operations were hosted from a former NATO bunker in Rhineland, Germany. The investigation of 7 Dutch men and 3 German men went on for 5 years before the operation was shut down. The longevity of the investigation was caused by a bulletproof hoster which conceals illicit activity, making it difficult for officials to pinpoint the operation's headquarters. Authorities say that the bunker housed the distribution of illegal substances, child pornography, counterfeit currencies, and malicious software. The investigation is still ongoing.
Thank you, David, Mia, and Jeffrey. We will be back after this short public service announcement.
War on information. 10 years ago, the NSA acknowledged the existence of the Utah Data Center. The site's purpose is to intercept, collect, analyze, and store all electronic communications, such as landlines, internet, and cell phones. This site is a key part of the NSA's plan to curate the global information grid, being due to the fact that it can store multiple yottabytes, 10 to the 24th power, of data. 10 years ago, all the hard drives on planet Earth did not equal 1 yottabyte. But now, the site has potentially multiple yottabytes of info. What makes the site potentially dangerous is not only the data it holds, but the use of supercomputers to brute force hack personal information. To brute force hack is to randomly select numbers or letters until the password is found. A normal computer takes months, but a supercomputer takes a matter of minutes. The only true way for you to maintain your internet privacy is to not draw the attention of the NSA, for they already have you, but they are not interested in you at the moment.
And now into sports. Volleyball, basketball, soccer, and football. When we hear the word sports, this is usually what comes to mind. But now, a new type of sport is rising to the top, esports. Reporter Soma Pope is here to give us details on the future of the sports entertainment industry.
Super Bowl 53. Mayweather versus Pacquiao. Rugby's 2019 World Cup in Japan. These are what we typically think when we hear sports. Sports by definition is an activity involving physical exertion that includes a competition for entertainment. Nowadays, that definition is changing with a new edition of esports. But what is esports? Esports are multiplayer video games played competitively in front of billions and are taking a big step out into the world. Olympic gold medalist Michael Phelps during the Game Awards of 2016 says, "There's absolutely no question to me the level of skill, training, and devotion it requires to become a professional gamer." And he introduces his nominees as fellow athletes.
There's absolutely no question to me the level of skill, training, and devotion it requires to become a professional gamer. Tonight, I'm here to pay tribute to 5 fellow athletes who have demonstrated incredible performance in 2016.
Esports can offer the same benefits as traditional sports, such as teamwork, communication, and sportsmanship. There is a level of fairness which traditional sports can't live up to. The referee of esports doesn't have bad eyesight, didn't have a long day, doesn't daydream, and doesn't show bias. The referee is computer code. The rules are set in game code, so fairness is always consistent. Esports is also inclusive. Anyone willing to put the time and effort can join in and compete. Your skills will determine the different leagues you play in. The best thing about esports, though, is the fact that it's never static. It constantly changes, and that's something that traditional sports simply can't offer. Sports networks like ESPN, legendary sports star Michael Jordan, and even NBA owner Mark Cuban has invested heavily in this growing billion-dollar industry. At this current rate, esports stands to jeopardize the future of traditional sports.
Thank you, Soma. As the march of technology advances in our everyday lives, even sports is leaning towards a more innovative virtual approach. There is often 2 sides to every issue, the good and the bad. But is this the case with the dark web? KBN reporter Soma Pope sat down with a special guest as he makes the case for the good side of the dark web.
Thanks for doing this interview with us, John. My name is Soma from KBN Studios.
Nice to meet you, Soma.
So, on to our first question, John. What is the dark web?
Well, Soma, to understand what the dark web is, it's important to understand what it's not. What the dark web is not is what you go onto every day when you surf the internet. You see Google, you see Facebook, and you see news sites, you see popular social media. That is the normal, what's called the surface web, and the surface web accounts for 4% of the web.
Sorry, I'm hearing this correctly, right? 4% of the internet?
Yes, it's estimated that 4% of the web is the surface web. It's hard to estimate the dark web because it's quite literally dark to what we can measure. So, but yes, 96% of the web is the dark and deep web. The dark web is a little bit different. The dark web cannot be found. The dark web was designed by the U.S. Navy, actually, originally for secure communications, and it uses a deep layer of encryption and security hopping protocols, which bounce out mirrors around the world and make it very difficult to determine the location and the content of what you're trying to find.
On to our second question. What are some common misconceptions about the dark web?
Well, I think one is what we just alluded to, is that the dark web is not named dark because it's evil. It's named dark because what happens there is done in the dark, because it can't be traced and it can't be found unless it wants to be found. To access the dark web, you can't do it through a traditional browser. Tor browser is the most common means to access it, because the dark web is actually built on what's called the Tor protocol. So Tor is one of the 6 or 7 more common methods to access the dark web.
Is it easy to access Tor?
You can download Tor from a number of sites. You can Google Tor and download it from the surface web. Which is another misconception about the dark web, is that the dark web is not illegal to use. The dark web is only legal when you go onto the dark web and access illegal information or conduct illegal business.
How can it be used for good? Is it only for bad?
Well, I guess to understand that, let's imagine that you're a high school student and you want to take your driver's license test. And let's say you're concerned about your privacy. Privacy is important, right? But if I say, Soma, you can take your driver's license test in private, and you can go off to a room and you can open up your web browser on your phone and you can Google all the answers, would you be able to get a driver's license doing that? Well, yes, you would pass the test easily, right? But is that something that we want? Do we want you on the road if you may not know any of the answers to those questions? Privacy can be good and it can be bad. Sometimes too much privacy is a bad thing. And with the dark web, privacy is important and it needs to be safeguarded. Unfortunately, the result of privacy is that some really bad things happen. There is child pornography, there is money laundering, there is narcotics and other types of drugs being sold on the dark web. There's a lot of bad things that happen on the dark web because it is done in the dark. But that isn't to say that it's all bad, because there is a place in our society today for secure, anonymous communications that no one can access. Sometimes privacy is critical, especially in the case of many countries. In many countries, the government is very zealous. They are very strict with their censorship. For instance, if you're in Syria and you have a criticism of the current government, Bashir, if you were to make activist statements against the government, Bashir al-Assad, and to say, he's awful, he needs to be removed from power, let's meet and talk about it. The Syrian government could easily intercept that on the surface web, and you could find yourself in jail or worse. So the dark web, in some cases and in some countries, in some situations, it really is the best chance for democracy to survive. The dark web can be a great tool when used for good.
That is all we have for you today. I'm Andrina Shah. Stay tuned for the latest updates here at KBN. Have a great night.